Now, this is significant. 27 years after Tupac Shakur's death, his family and millions of fans around the world never imagined they would see Duane Davis, a man who has long been known to investigators, in court charged with murder. Guess what? Today is the day of the man charged with the 1996 shooting death of the rap icon. The police have now charged a man who was connected to the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur. Tupac was only 25 at the time, but he accomplished more in those years than any of us could have imagined. It felt like there was a large-scale conspiracy that we would never fully understand. Due to the large number of participants in the game, P. Diddy was being blamed by many for the shooting incident, accusing Suge Knight, who, incidentally, was driving the car and was suspected of instigating it because Tupac wanted to leave his record label Death Row and because of the drama surrounding Notorious B.I.G. Nobody seemed trustworthy in this entire bizarre scenario, including the police officers who were involved in some of the crimes involving death row guns. Let's go on this crazy ride and solve the mystery, since most of us have long since given up hope that we will ever find the answers. What happened to Tupac? His mother fought for decades to get answers, but she is no longer with us, and justice is merely a word at this point. Still, at least we have some answers now. Let's go back to the evening of September 7, 1996, when Mike Tyson was sparring Selden in Vegas, and Tupac and Tyson were close, and everywhere he went, Tupac rolled deep and created a ruckus. This time, they spotted Orlando Anderson in the hotel lobby, a rival gang to Tupac's Bloods crew. They watched the CCTV, and although Tupac and Anderson had a history of beef, it was all blowing up when Suge Knight joined in and started beating Anderson up. Since they own the property, Tupac and Suge decide to visit the 662, a Moro spot. They get the vibes from the mafia there, and at the last moment, Tupac and Suge are murdered. Here's how it goes. Tupac pulls up to a stoplight on the Vegas Strip, a white Cadillac pulls up, and boom. People weren't really buying the whole Tupac got shot thing because, he'd been shot before and shrugged it off like it was nothing. Dude seemed immortal or something. People thought he'd bounce back. Tupac gets fired and survives for about a week, but he's never the same. Lungs filled with blood, and the game changes forever. They didn't realize at first that this was the real deal, so let's go back to the moment when Pac actually escaped death's path. When you lose your composure, anything is possible, and fear overcame love to cause to do things they knew they shouldn't have done. They know deep down that's why they're in hell right now and can't sleep, so they're telling all the reporters and the public why they're doing this. They're up hip-hop because they're in hell and can't make money, go anywhere, or look in the mirror because they know the product has returned and I'm alive. Ghosts were prowling around on November 29, 1994. Tupac and his friend Charles Fuller were charged with serious crimes, including sodomy, sexual abuse, and possession of weapons. Trouble with the law always seems to find Shakur, who had a long legal history that included assault, shooting at police, and carrying a loaded gun. In 1995, a jury found him guilty of sexual abuse. The allegations originated from a 19-year-old woman named Ayanna Jackson, who stated that on November 18, 1993, Tupac and Fuller made inappropriate advances toward her in Tupac's opulent hotel suite. Imagine a $7,500 per night location on the 38th floor of the Parker Meridien Hotel. So on the first day of the jury's deliberations, Tupac bounces for a publicity gig in Harlem and records with Little Sean at Times Square's Quad recording studio. He knows that this recording may be his last for a while and that he could face up to 25 years in the slammer. Fast forward to November 30, 1994, when Tupac is in Manhattan awaiting the verdict when, all of a sudden, he is ambushed and shot. Earlier that night, Tupac received an invitation to record for free from a New York DJ named Ron G. Being the cool dude that he is, he accepted and went to Quad Studios. In the lobby of the Times Square recording studio, his lawyers sobbed and set him up. Tupac then points fingers at Biggie Smalls, who was upstairs in the studio for the session, but here's the catch. After some back and forth, Tupac is told he will be paid by Uptown Entertainment once the recording is done at 12:16 a.m., but then he receives a call stating they don't have the money to pay him. Teenage Junior Mafia members yell at Tupac and his group as they approach Quad Studios from the terrace. Tupac believes it's. Everything is well upstairs. There's a Biggie, Puffy, and more. Quad Studios is humming with activity as Tupac and his squad approached the studio entrance. They see three guys dressed in army fatigues, looking like Brooklyn-style Tupacs. They approach the elevator, and suddenly, bam, ambush the three men with two guns, leaving Tupac on the ground being robbed. Robbers stole $35,000 worth of Tupac's gold, and Freddie Moore, Tupac's manager, lost $5,000 in jewelry. The chaos continued, and Tupac was dragged into the elevator and taken upstairs for first aid. Tupac was shocked, but no one upstairs seemed fazed by the madness. They shot him 5 times and beat him up. Tupac loses a testicle from one of the bullets. Even though Tupac is bleeding profusely, he manages to call 911, light up a joint, and recognize some familiar faces from past encounters. In a quintessential Tupac move, he flips off the photographers as they wheel him out to Bellevue Hospital, where they tend to his wounds. Dr. Leon Potter says Tupac is fortunate. Tupac tests himself at 6:45 p.m. against the advice of his doctor because the bullets weren't bigger or he would have died. And the next day, Tupac surprises everyone by arriving in a wheelchair at court. The only thing he has on is a charmed Rolex that is still wrapped in gauze on his left wrist and a Yankees hat that covers his bandaged skull. The main suspect, Orlando Anderson, was jumped by Tupac's crew after a wild night like that, and soon after, he was offed, just like many others in those street wars. But here's the kicker: one guy from the car didn't survive. Anderson is a living legend even after that. A few decades later, he's on YouTube, disclosing details and essentially blaming himself. Say hello to Key D. You mentioned that the shots originated from the rear. Huge Dre Orlando, who shot Tupac in the Keefe for the cold of the streets. It came from the back seat, buddy, so Key D reveals all in these YouTube interviews regarding the 662 club scene. Tupac and Suge were not present, so Orlando and his team went looking for them. At this point, KYD is attempting to act cool by claiming, "Oh, it came from the back seat. I was just in the passenger seat." This is a classic move, but he's essentially trying to ride the wave of his involvement without coming clean, but let's be honest, he's been yapping about this for years in interviews. It makes me think of Chris Rock's comment that the cops won't care if you slap a demo tape on someone. I feel bad for Tupac, but attacking Orlando was fair game. It's been a crazy journey, and this man is speaking as though it were a daily occurrence. You know, it's been a good 27 years since Tupac was shot in that drive-by in Vegas. The police apprehended Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D, a Southside Compton Crips man who has been acting as though he saw the entire thing come to fruition. On September 29, they charged him with murder and mentioned using a dangerous weapon. The judge said, "No bail, bro," so back in July, the police showed up at Keefe D's house seeking various tech equipment. Apparently, a grand jury had been reviewing the evidence for months, and Keefe D had been disclosing information. A lot about that night, and even revealed some information in a 2019 memoir titled Compton Street Legend. But here's the real kicker: he's the uncle of Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, the man they believe to have pulled the trigger back in 1996. Anderson got smoked in 1998, but continued to insist he didn't off Tupac. Keefe D spilled the tea in 2018 about being in that Cadillac and is now the Lone Ranger from that ride he revealed to the police in 2010. He included it in his memoir, discussing how it was to avoid a drug ring. Tupac's murder has been the subject of numerous bizarre theories for a long time, such as the one linking it to Biggie's death 6 months later and Greg killing this retired LAPD detective. Claims that Keefe D positioned himself squarely in the heart of this entire scheme. So who is Keefe D, and how did he become entangled in the largest LA police saga? If we ever heard one Keefe D, it would be a gang tale worth repeating. The person working on the case said that it was difficult to crack until KD started yapping. Born on June 14, 1963, had strong ties to the Southside Compton CPS. His life story is a jumble of personal tragedies, gang life, and a significant period spent behind bars. Growing up in a large family with 6 brothers and 6 sisters, KD's early years were heavily influenced by the gang lifestyle. Tragically, his mother passed away. died of colon cancer in 1980 at the age of 15. But, in his 2018 memoir, KPD revealed that he had fought the same disease in 2014 that had killed his mother. Fortunately, the cancer is currently in remission, but if he is charged, he may have to serve time. KD experienced severe family tragedies aside from losing his mother. Two of his brothers died tragically, one from cancer and the other from a shooting in Compton, and losing his older brother to a street shooting threw a major curveball in his journey. Things became extremely difficult, and he was sucked into the world of. He spent more than 10 years in prison, dealing with various criminal situations. He even dumped 2 clips into the home of a rival gang member, indicating serious conflicts. His criminal journey started in '71, when, he gave in to peer pressure and entered the scene. After that, he attempted to make some money. Legitimate money at Compton College, but it wasn't coming in quickly enough, so he turned to the drug trade, and surprisingly, it paid off, at least in terms of money. The law eventually caught up with him, though, and he served time from 85 to 89 years old. The worst part is that, rather than receiving rehabilitation, prison simply made him a tougher person. Gangster Keefe D entered the hip-hop scene at an early age, hanging out with Eazy-E and the former drug lord Harry O. Harry O was well known in the Death Row record scene, the label that gave rise to Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Tupac. Speaking of Tupac, Keefe D revealed too much about him, including his relationship with Harry O, who, after serving time in prison since the age of 88, had his sentence reduced by Trump in 2021. However, that is not the end of the story. KD was close to Suge Knight, another Death Row co-founder, but things got messy. The two had been friends since they were little, playing Pop Warner football together, with Keefe D playing running back and Suge playing quarterback center, but things took a turn when KD teamed up with P. Diddy. Diddy borrowed a lowrider for a music video and messed it up, but at least he paid for repairs, which started a friendship even though Diddy's Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records were competing against each other. I think you know me. Run your mouth, talk yourself into a search warrant, and who knows, maybe you've even talked yourself into a murder charge. We don't know that yet, but for at least 25 years, fans have incorrectly included Chris Carroll, the police officer who discovered Pac in that car in Vegas, in the controversy. Some believe he assisted Tupac in pulling off a disappearing act for a foreign nation. It's weird, man. Either I was involved in the murder, I concealed him, or I relocated him, but at some point, the tale takes on a life of its own when people start yapping. The situation became so crazy that I had to call my friends who work in homicide to ask if I should be concerned. They laughed it off, saying there was nothing to it, even though the police had named Keefe in the search warrant. Carroll knows that conspiracy theorists won't go away, and I can assure you that nothing will change. Those who believe he is still alive will continue to say so, and this won't change many of their beliefs. I've spoken with a lot of these people, and no matter what evidence you present, they refuse to believe it. Carroll has seen it all and says she is no longer easily surprised because things just keep happening in unexpected ways. 96 Vegas detectives, the LAPD, and the FBI were stuck without finding a conviction because witnesses, including Suge Knight and Tupac's cousin, weren't spilling the beans. Now that we have a significant development, the case seems to be ongoing and will be in the news for some time. K has finally come clean, but Carroll isn't betting on a prosecution. Personally, I'd be shocked if they went after him, but time will tell. Families want closure, and even though there is a ton of evidence and we pretty much know who killed Orlando, Keefe might talk a big game. I don't think much will come of this. 26 years later, most of the players are gone, and there isn't much physical evidence. If a gun turns up, though, that could change things. The bullets from Tupac's body could match up, and that would be the big break. Game confesses in his memoir and all, but Carroll's not convinced. SWAT teams recently raided Keefe's crib, but Carroll is unsure if they found a gun or not. The video showed the entire SWAT operation, but if they found a firearm, that would be the most significant piece of evidence. If so, it would be a game changer. As of right now, Carroll hasn't mentioned finding a gun, though, since the Tupac incident in 1996. After Tupac's BMW was shot on Las Vegas Boulevard, he was the first policeman to arrive on the scene, so when the door eventually flew open, it turned out that Tupac was inside, leaning against it, and when I pulled it open, he kind of slid out with the... As I opened the door, it kind of fell out, so I grabbed him with my left hand and brought him down to the street. I then had a revolver in my right hand, and while Suge Knight was still flowing up my back, I continued to hold a gun at him and say, "I'm thanking you." The rapper breathed his last in Carroll's presence before passing away from gunshot wounds. Over the past 20 years, Carroll has dealt with many bizarre theories and outrageous accusations, but this most recent Keefe D twist is something entirely different. The word on the street is that KD revealed the information, saying that the shooting occurred as retaliation to profit from the reported $1 million that Sean Puffy Combs, aka P. Diddy, offered for killing Tupac and Suge Knight. Surprisingly, P. Diddy is still at large, avoiding interviews regarding these charges, even though this man is now in handcuffs and is undoubtedly sweating bullets. Particularly in light of the fact that Tupac shot both P. Diddy and Biggie in his hit song. Tupac has already accused P. Diddy of being behind the first shooting, which he survived, so things are not looking good. Some people speculated that Suge Knight might be responsible, but that seems unlikely given that he was in the same vehicle and took a bullet. A recent diss track directed at Machine Gun Kelly, who signed with P. Diddy, alluded to the heads theory linking P. Diddy to Keefe D, saying that P. Diddy greenlit the hit that killed Tupac. It remains to be seen if Eminem was being serious or humorous about this debate, but he definitely stirred things up. All the evidence seems to point to P. Diddy being the person responsible for Tupac's death. It's amazing how things work out after all these years. If P. Diddy is found guilty, he may face prison time, which would be a severe fall from grace for someone who has enjoyed decades of success. Eminem even brought this up in his song, but who knows if he was being serious or just having fun. Given the ongoing mystery surrounding Tupac's death, this arrest seems to be tying up some loose ends. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Honestly, everyone involved in this mess is either dead or in jail. Just take a look at Suge Knight is in jail, a shadow of his former self, so retaliation may not be possible and Keefe D may end up in jail. However, if P. Diddy, the billionaire, is brought down, that would be a game changer because recently, he has been giving back publishing rights and acting very philanthropic, which is quite the twist in the saga, but there's a reason why that is taking place. Diddy is in a lot of trouble even if we ignore the Pac situation. He was hit with numerous lawsuits alleging various wrongdoings, as you are undoubtedly already aware. Diddy has also been fighting Dio for more than a minute, and to top it all off, the companies which he has been working with over the years, they want to get rid of 18 of them for now. Here's the latest scoop. Jane Doe, a woman, has released a shocking lawsuit accusing Sean Diddy Combs, Pierre, the former president of his record label, and an unidentified individual of sexual assault. Jane Doe claims that these three people targeted her as part of a sex trafficking scheme involving drugs, alcohol, and a private jet trip to NYC, where she was allegedly gang raped by these three individuals at Diddy Studio. The assault occurred in 2003, when she was just 17 and Diddy was 34. The lawsuit was filed by the victims of gender-motivated. The violence protection law gives her until March 1, 2025, to file civil claims against Diddy, Pierre Daddy's House Recordings, and Bad Boy Entertainment. The defendants are all under fire, as defendant Douglas Weedore, the attorney for Jane Doe, who previously defended Cassie in her lawsuit against Diddy, claimed that these heinous acts had permanently scarred Cassie. Liza Gardner and Joey Dickerson Neal and two women filed lawsuits against Diddy last month, alleging that he had sexually abused them. Jane Doe says that Cassie and the others encouraged her to tell her story. Diddy, who has never shied away from a fight, has angrily denied any wrongdoing, saying that enough is enough and that these accusations are an attempt to discredit his legacy. Jane's lawsuit claims she met Pierre in a Detroit lounge in 2003, and that meeting set off a horrifying chain of events that included forced oral sex and a private jet ride to Diddy Studio. The suit even contains pictures taken in Diddy Studio the night of the alleged assaults, about which Diddy's representatives declined to comment. The lawsuit paints a disturbing picture of a vulnerable teenager being coerced into a horrific situation. Jane Doe claims she was drugged, raped, and left emotionally scarred by the experience. This case is part of a larger wave with multiple parties involved. Pierre dismisses these claims as a tale of fiction and vehemently denies any involvement. We dug into the Tupac murder saga, KPD's revelations, the spicy theories pointing fingers at P. Diddy, and just how much the accusations are hurting Diddy's reputation as the legal battle plays out. Will justice be served, or will this turn into another case settled behind closed doors? Just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier, a new lawsuit drops like a bomb on Diddy's doorstep. Now that we're right in the middle of this legal showdown, people are accusing Diddy, his EXL president, Harve Pierre, and an unknown person of being SA Gang R. It's a messy situation.